I want to talk about what I believe to be the most important principle that you can develop within your own psyche. And without this principle, I believe that it's really impossible to live a very meaningful life. I believe that you're bound to just live a life that isn't really in alignment with you. I believe that without this principle, there's going to be a lot of unnecessary suffering. And this principle is honesty, as you can see by the title. And when we typically hear of honesty, we think of just telling the truth in this sort of like corny way, in this black and white way of either it's a lie or it's truth. And I really want to give you a more detailed look at this and what this really means. How you can actually apply this to your life so you can really change it. How you can use honesty as a guiding force in your life. And what better guiding force is there than what's true? Because if you don't have what's true, right? If it's not built on honesty, it's built off of deceptions and lies and manipulations and avoidance, etc. Right? If you go down this path of truth and actually really valuing it, you're bound to end up in a better place than the path of lies and manipulation and deception and avoidance and escapism and denying reality, etc. So our mind is a very sort of self-deceptive system. Our mind has this capacity to deny what is true forever, this capacity to just deny reality, this capacity to just avoid, right? And honesty in this context is really about just seeing ourselves clearly, seeing experience clearly, and allowing what is the case, which is just what is true, to guide us, whether it's in our relationships, our career, our health and well-being, any particular aspect of our life whatsoever. So I want to get into how you really apply this to your life. So you need to develop this capacity that I'm going to call being your own whistleblower. It's this capacity to just call yourself out. When you are full of shit, you got to call yourself out. Stating it to yourself in this clear way in your mind so that there's no avoiding what's going on. You want to completely eliminate avoiding what is true and just bring it to the forefront of your attention. And it's really hard to actually do this once we've built up this pattern of avoidance and delusion and self-deception and just denying. Because with that comes a lot of pain. And we're usually doing all that stuff in order to avoid pain and get certain things that we want, further our self-agenda so we can get things that we want. So we erect all sorts of illusions and lies in order to just be happy, essentially. We're doing it in order to get things that we want and just avoid pain. And this whole strategy just doesn't actually work. It fails, especially in the long term. It fails. You might get away with some things in the very short term, but it's still not even worth it. So you need this capacity to just be your own whistleblower. And it's really difficult to really do this because, especially as you get older, when you aren't building the foundation of your life upon what is true, what's honest, what is actually the case, you're going to build it upon lies. So your relationships get built upon avoidance and denial and a lack of clarity. Right? Your career gets built upon lies and delusion. Your well-being, right? You literally cannot be psychologically and emotionally well without honesty. It's just not going to work, I guarantee you. So every single area of your life gets infected with delusion, essentially, and it just doesn't work very well because everything is so misguided. You can't navigate life properly because you're not working with what's true. You're working with your own mentally constructed illusions. So now let's get into some of this detail that I've been talking about, of how you can really begin to apply this in your life. So your relationships, for example, just really getting clear, being honest. What's not working? What does work? Being transparent. What you want. Do I set good boundaries? Right? Can I actually listen to my partner? Right? Just being able to bring up difficult conversations as well. Oh, I avoid difficult conversations. Stating this kind of stuff to yourself. I avoid emotionally difficult experiences with any relationship whatsoever in my life. I avoid the difficult conversations. Being able to just state this to yourself. My God, I'm kind of choking on something I ate. So it's like we're bringing up what's true and putting it at the forefront of our attention, and we're giving it our full attention. So there is no way to BS our way out of this one anymore. we're just minimizing our avoidance, and we're not giving ourselves any way to get out of this one. We're not giving our mind any wiggle room, because the second you give your mind some wiggle room, it's going to find some way to bullshit its way out. No wiggle room, no avoidance. It's just asking yourself these kinds of questions. Can I set good boundaries? What am I avoiding in my relationship? What emotions do I avoid in my relationship? What's really not working? Am I forcing this to work, etc.? Next is just honesty in your career. Do you just do it for money? This is a really good one, because if you're just doing it for money, you don't actually like it. It's not built off your own intrinsic motivation. It's very out of alignment with you. And to just acknowledge that is difficult, because the second you start acknowledging what is true, what's real, right? The second you start getting honest with yourself, it's like, oh, I have to change now. It's like, oh, I can't continue on this trajectory of lies anymore. It's getting very direct about what is actually the case, right? It's like, oh, I'm doing it just for money. This isn't actually what I want. I'm not excited to do my career. I'm not excited to do the work that I do. There's no real passion driving it. There's no excitement. There's no love for it. There's no curiosity or creativity or sense of mastery or freedom that comes from it. There's just a sense of love for it. It's just like, oh, it's just money. Right? And it's like, oh, like I can't continue on this trajectory forever. Right? It's like, oh, I need to figure out what to do. How do I get out of this? Right? So this is why it gets hard. Right? It gets hard because it's like we avoid this stuff. We avoid the pain of it. And we just stay on this sort of meaningless trajectory that we don't really like. And when we're honest, it's like we're not avoiding the pain of it. We're no longer bullshitting ourselves. We're just facing reality head on. And long term, this actually becomes a very sweet thing. So like the short-term pain of it becomes actually pleasure. It becomes very pleasurable to be honest with yourself, because all the lying and avoiding and denying, this actually causes like a whole bunch of unnecessary suffering that you experience. And the honesty can hurt in the short term, because it's like, oh, it kind of stings to notice that I've been deluding myself, and to even admit that I have been deluding myself. That's a hard thing to admit, right? But it gets to the point where it becomes sweet. It's like, oh, I love cleaning up my life with honesty. It's kind of like coffee, right? A lot of young people, when they're kids, they don't like coffee. It's bitter, right? But then you grow up and you kind of like the taste of coffee. I actually love the taste of coffee. I'll get like a black decaf. I don't want the feeling of caffeine. I don't need caffeine. I'm not interested. I don't need it to feel energized at all. But I love the taste of just pure bitter coffee. I'm insane. I know people give me some weird looks when I order that one. I've gotten some looks. But the point is that when I was young, I didn't really like it. But then, it was like you matured into it, right? You developed into it in a sense, right? I'm connecting that with honesty. You developed into a transparent, grounded, honest person who doesn't have to avoid reality. And then that has a lot of power in it. This is the most powerful thing you can do for your life, to guide it in a very meaningful direction based off of what is actually meaningful to you, not to anyone else, not to your mom, not to your dad, not to your friends, not to your teachers, not to anyone, but to you. Getting clear about you, being honest about you. Right, and it's super counterintuitive, because this actually can ripple out to help a lot of people when you're really getting clear about yourself. Right? There's some very interesting skills that you develop that aren't really taught in any mainstream anything in society, and they're extremely valuable. Right? So moving on is honesty in your business, caring about your customers, caring about your clients. Right? This is a big one. Right? Do you actually like your business, for example? Is your business driven by your soul? Do you actually feel a deep connection to the kind of work that you do in your business? Right? Even just being transparent in your business, honest marketing as well. A lot of marketing is blatant lies and manipulation, etc. Business doesn't have to be done like that. Business can be done in a conscious and actually honest way. And counterintuitively, there's something that just like feels right about it. The energy can move properly, because when you're lying, when you're manipulating, when you're deceiving, it's like there's something true, and you got to cover it up with a bunch of illusions. The actual reality, we can't have that. We got to cover it up. We got to hide it. And then you got to put energy into it over and over and over again. You got to maintain your bullshit. That's the best part about this, is you have some stinking pile of bullshit. You got to maintain it now, right? And it's just disgusting. And it's like you give energy to it over and over and over again. It's actually exhausting, right? And the truth is just that which that is. You really don't have to like overexert for it. It's just already the case. The truth doesn't need defending. The truth doesn't even need proving. The truth is just already there. The truth is what is real, what is actual, right? Moving with the truth also allows the energy in your life to flow. Because it's like when you're repressing something, when you're trying to hide it, you can't let the energy move properly. You're too busy restricting it. You're too busy repressing something to just allow yourself to let go and allow energy to move in spontaneous, free ways, because this present experience is just a free flow of completely uncontrollable energy. And that's what really, what reality is. It's spontaneously arising energy from pure consciousness, pure emptiness that can't be controlled in any particular way. Totally just spontaneously arising. Next is just honesty in your own well-being, right? And even before I get to that point, honesty is going to help you in your spiritual development and ego transcendence quite a lot. There's no transcending the ego without honesty. Now back to this one, honesty in your well-being. Being honest about your exercise, being honest about your diet. Oh, I use my diet to avoid myself. I use junk food to avoid myself. I use my bad habits to avoid myself, right? I use scrolling to avoid myself. I have heavy metals that are stuck in my body because our environment is full of pollutants. The air we breathe has heavy metals. A lot of the food we eat has heavy metals. So these heavy metals get stuck in the body. They affect your psychological, emotional system, of course, your physical body as well, your spiritual development, and you actually have to purify your body. To even acknowledge that is like, oh, now I got to do something about it. Now I got to figure out heavy metal detox. Now I have to learn something about it and change what I'm doing. Oh, I get it. This honesty stuff is like how I clean up my life. And without it, with this avoidance and this denial of it, and this like unwillingness to see reality clearly, it's like, oh, everything collapses, everything breaks down. Right? It's like, oh, it doesn't work well. The second you're honest about you have heavy metals that are stuck inside of your body, you gotta clean them out. There's heavy metal detoxes that can clean them out. Right? They exist. It's like, oh, now I gotta do something about it. With this new truthful information, oh, it's like, oh, if I don't do something about it, this is an error. Right? To even just be honest about that. Right? Even just stretching. How flexible is your body? Can you touch your toes? Right? Like, is your body a healthy and vital place to be? Just being honest with yourself about that. Is it or is it not? Moving on is just honesty in, of course, your habits and patterns. So I touched a little bit about unhealthy habits, but it's like, do these beliefs actually help me? And do these thought loops that I'm stuck in actually help me? Does this habit of being on my phone all the time actually help me? Right? So it's just being honest of like, oh, I use these unhealthy habits and these thoughts and all this, whatever it is, all these patterns to like escape pain. I'm using it to escape reality. It's like we're really confronting life head on here. No wiggle room, no way to get out of this one. It's like we're meeting reality head on. We're using actual reality to guide our lives. This is like the most powerful force that you can use to guide your life. I'm being as truthful as I can with that statement. If there's a more powerful one, let me know, comment. But for now, this is the most powerful one that I've discovered. It's what's actually true. It's actually the case. Because just think about it. Where is delusion going to get you, right? Into basically just a pile of shit. And where is honesty going to get you in all your life? It's going to get you to just being this like open, transparent, like radiant human being who doesn't have to hide stuff or repress or deny, right? And there's a whole spectrum in between, so it's not black and white. There's a massive spectrum here, and this is a long-term vision for your life, right? You can, at this point in the video, begin to understand why humanity is so full of BS, because this is a really hard thing to do. No one is really willing to actually have this long-term vision for themselves and develop themselves into a very transparent human being. This is very hard. You have to go through all your self-deceptions, all your delusions, your shadow, how you repress things, etc. It's like you got to look at a lot of disgusting things, a lot of hard things, a lot of the things that you want to avoid. It's not easy. So people just don't do it in the first place. And it leads to all sorts of problems in people's lives that many people don't even know that they have. Right? And then once you go 10, 20, 30, 40 years living that life of delusion, you don't want to go back and clean up that foundational stuff. You don't want to go back to that. It's like, I've been investing in this life for 40 years. No, I don't want to do that. My whole sense of self and reality and survival and how I get my needs met in my career, my relationship, they're built on this. They're erected upon illusions. Why would I want to go back and clean that up? That's way too painful. So you go, nope. You rationalize why you shouldn't, or why you're right, or why you have the truth, and you already have the truth. You already got the truth. Your mind already makes perfect sense of reality. You're already honest. Why would you have to do any work on it, right? Your mind BS's its way out of it, right? This is a long-term thing, long-term vision, long-term development here, a long-term project that I'm giving you in this video. You can see why it's so hard, why most people don't do it. Now you are beginning to understand why humanity is so full of BS, but also life is very hard. I got a lot of compassion for humanity. All right, so I'm trying to be as direct as possible with this message. Next, just honesty with your information intake. Is the information that you actually put into your mind, does it help you at all? Is it healthy? Does it actually build a great mind, right? Even just the information, the thoughts that go through your mind, right? How do you deceive yourself? Right? Can you even be honest that self-deception exists and that it's something you do? Self-deception is something that you do. Right? To even acknowledge that and accept it, that I have to be on the lookout for self-deception for the rest of my life. For as long as we have a mind, it has the capacity to deceive itself, and it does so a lot. And we gotta understand self-deception very deeply. Right? To even have the capacity to be honest about that existing, right? This is like a thing that's going to change the trajectory of your life, because now you got to like do something about that one. You got to like learn how it works. You got to start like investigating the nature of your own mind, how your mind works, etc. Right? So just being honest about you deceive yourself. Right? Back to the information intake thing. Does the information that you put into your mind, does it even help you? Or is it just noise? A lot of the information stuff we see is pure noise. It doesn't actually help us. The Instagram feed and the endless YouTube feed, right? Most of the stuff you see is noise. It's not actually providing a lot of value to your life. It's just sucking your energy. It's just draining you. Fill up your environment with the things that help you to be well. Setting up your environment to help you to raise your consciousness, to get clear, to give you the energy that you actually need to function properly. Moving on is just honesty in your avoidance, calling out how you avoid your emotions, calling out how you avoid having difficult conversations, how you avoid being honest, how you avoid changing jobs, quitting jobs, doing a completely different career, how you avoid pain in your relationships. Just calling yourself out for all the things that you avoid, right? And this is hard because you avoid these things. These are the things you don't want to look at, and we're bringing it all out to the surface. Of course, there's going to be pain associated with that. And once you learn to actually really relate to that in a more smoother way, once you really begin to embrace honesty, right? I promise it gets sweet. Kind of like coffee, right? You develop into a person who is capable of enjoying coffee, right? Even just being honest with your emotions, being able to just label them. I'm mad, or I'm frustrated, or I'm projecting my emotions onto this person. I'm using this person as my punching bag, right? It's like, oh, I'm playing a victim, you know, right? Oh, I feel grief in me and I don't want to feel it, so I'm distracting myself. Just being honest about what you feel, bringing it to the forefront of your mind, stating it directly, being your own whistleblower, right? And giving yourself no wiggle room. Right. While also having compassion for yourself. So it's like this direct approach, but also this understanding that you don't have to be perfect ASAP. Like I said, this is a long-term project. You don't have to hold yourself to any rigid standard. It's like allow yourself to progress at a rate that's comfortable for you as well, right? Don't bite off more than you can chew. Allow yourself to just take what you can handle one at a time, right? And I trust that with the information in this video, you can begin to just kind of notice some things in your life. Notice ways in which you deceive yourself or you just avoid, right? Even just this principle of honesty, I hope that by now you can actually see a little bit of the value of it, You won't really know the value of it until you begin acting on it for many years on end. That's it for this video. If you're interested in working with me one-to-one, you can apply to do so. If you're sincere, I trust that you will find the link by yourself. It's not very hard to find. Take it easy.